As a fan of retro video games, it's always exciting to see new indie games inspired by classics. When I saw Dogworld, its stark aesthetic, old school Metrovania gameplay, and dog-filled charm drew me in. While I had my doubts, thankfully Dogworld turned out to be a well-rounded adventure that embraces gaming's past, but it stumbles exactly where those classics do. The first thing you'll notice with Dogworld is its retro presentation. This stark 1-bit design has black, white, and red comprising the entire world. The visuals gave me an Undertale vibe, while also reminding me of the ZX Spectrum aesthetic, which stands out given how unique it is. While I found this design choice appealing, I had two minor nitpicks with it. Given that there are so few colors, sometimes it's tough to spot enemies, and I think the character sprites are just a bit too large. Locations, bosses, and characters all look unique, and everything combines to create an appealing atmosphere. The CRT filter is one of the better implementations of this feature I've seen, but it adds flicker, so you might want to turn it off if that bothers you. The doggos are also very adorable, and the chiptune music is pretty great throughout, adding to the retro feel, getting you excited to play through the game. While you wouldn't expect it for this kind of game, Dogworld's story is surprisingly well executed. Set in a post-apocalyptic world where humanity lives underground in pods because an AI named Daddy said that the surface was uninhabitable, an accident happens where you're launched to the said surface. When you climb out of your broken pod, you find that the surface is totally livable, and there are dogs who can talk. The game follows your events as you explore the world and work to survive against Daddy. Sure, it's not the most complex or in-depth in the world, and it's basically just set dressing, but the combination of simple, intriguing, and compelling is perfect for this kind of game. The dialogue is a delight, and the game story does a good enough job of keeping you motivated. The gameplay is really the star of the show though. First and foremost, Dogworld in general gave me a lot of Cave Story vibes, almost to an eerie extent. From the level design to gameplay structure to atmosphere and story vibes, it's easy to tell that inspiration was drawn from Cave Story, but I didn't mind it because Dogworld does enough to add its own unique elements. Dogworld can be boiled down to a run-and-gun 2D Metrovania platformer. You explore a large world and occasionally run into bosses. Movement is tight and precise. The jumping is a little bit more floaty than most would prefer, but I tend to like that. The levels are fairly straightforward and are very fun to explore. There's a healthy mix of tight platforming and gunning down enemies Contra style in this adventure. You have a large variety of weapons, but often you'll find that you'll just typically use the highest DPS weapon, with the rest of the weapons being a little bit more situational. A fundamental mechanic is the slide, which gives you a ton of iframes, so it becomes necessary to traverse and avoid the enemy's attacks. Where Dogworld really excels is the level of difficulty. It's hard to keep a consistent difficulty curve, where the game is hard enough to be satisfying but easy enough that you won't get frustrated, and Dogworld manages to balance these very well. Bosses, for example, are difficult enough that you probably won't beat them on your very first try, but they have pretty simple patterns, so once you begin to learn these, you can usually beat them in a few tries. This way you'll get the feeling of accomplishment that you've learned how to beat the boss while not hindering your progression. The best retro-inspired games are the ones that acknowledge the strengths of those titles and at the same time adds quality of life improvements to keep up with modern mechanics. Dogworld lacks in this area as it feels far too much like the games that inspired it. Some people might enjoy dated design, but I found it largely annoying in a modern game. A few quirks are that you can only shoot in the 4 cardinal directions, no diagonals. You can't move in a ladder and shoot at the same time. There's basically no weapon that handles enemies at close range, so you get hit a bunch in quick succession. Save spots felt incredibly erratic, with some stretches going very long without any saves, and the game doesn't convey information well. Oftentimes I would just be wandering around, hoping I was going the right way. And the game didn't even tell me I could upgrade weapons until I had to figure out myself when I got walled by a boss and figured I had to upgrade my weapons to beat this. All that being said, while these issues never really went away while playing, it was easy to ignore them because Dogworld is incredibly satisfying to play in general. From finishing tricky platforming sections to getting through a gauntlet of enemies to the awesome bosses, I found myself really enjoying the moment-to-moment experience of playing through Dogworld. The core gameplay is so engaging and the atmosphere and cast were so likable that I was never really having a bad time playing through the game. Dogworld is a charming, retro-inspired 2D Metrovania that provides a unique gameplay experience through its aesthetic, story, and mechanics. However, the game suffers from mirroring its retro inspirations a little too closely, leading to flaws. Still, my general first impressions didn't fail me, and I found a lot to love about this quirky adventure. Noisy Pixel giving Dogworld an 8.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This has been Noisy Pixel signing off. If you're interested in more information about this game, please check out the Noisy Pixel website where we have news and a more in-depth written review. If you're interested in content like this, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be notified about our future content, and have a great day.